just wanted to put together a quick video about these as well. As I mentioned in class, use the formulas you have, right? So we're looking at the sequence, and I recognize, of course, my first term is -6. And if I check this out, you should notice that if you add 7 each time, right, this is an arithmetic sequence. And now it's an arithmetic series since we're adding, right? So my common difference is 7. My last term is 141, but my question here is what's n? I don't have n. So though it would be nice to be able to use this formula, right, n over 2, first term plus last term, right, I have both of those, but I don't know what n is. As I mentioned, use the formulas you have. You have another formula. You have this one, right? You have my arithmetic sequence formula. And so I can say, a question I've already asked you before, for example, I might say, given this sequence, right, given this sequence at least, which term is 141? And that's ultimately what we're solving, is which term is 141? Right? You were asked this question on your arithmetic sequence problems, right? We can solve for n here. So whenever you solve, you can solve again, as I mentioned, whichever method you prefer. 21 equals n minus 1, so n equals 22. Now that you know which term it is, that means this is now the 22nd term. And I can go back and say that the sum of the first 22 terms is 22 over 2. I can still use this first term and my last term. It doesn't matter whether you use this formula, my first term and my last term average, or whether you use the other one. This one's a little bit faster because you already have that information to be able to say the sum of these terms is 1,485. Similar process to my arithmetic series using sigma notation. So right here we know we can break this up, and we know that if I were to expand this, I start by plugging in this. So my first term means plug in this number, and I say 4 times 1 minus 3 is 1, right? And then I can say my last term means plug in this number, so u sub 15 is 4 times 15 minus 3, which is 57. And I actually don't even need my common difference. I know that I can say how many terms is 15 minus 1 and then plus 1. Remember, that's really especially important if this is anything other than just 1, right? And so n is going to be my 15. So I can say the sum of my first 15 terms is 15 over 2, and then just that first term plus my last term, right? And there I can get my 435. Again, on this last problem, use the formulas you know. Right, so find the first 2 terms of the sequence, arithmetic sequence. If the 6th term is 21, right, 6th term is 21. And if the sum of the first 17 terms is 0, so the sum of the first 17 terms is 0. Use the formulas you've got, right? So I know the formulas that I can use here for arithmetic sequence formulas are the nth term formula, and my sum of my first n terms formula. Remember, we have 2 of these. We have this one, a little more complicated looking one, and this one. Excuse me, I almost put a sub 1 again. Now, if you're looking over here, of course there's only one that works, right? So I would say that the 6th term is u sub 1 plus 6 minus 1 times d, right, or u sub 1 plus 5d. But instead of writing u sub 6 here, right, I can just put 21. So there's one way that I know that u sub 1 and d are related. For my term over here, I know I could either use 17 over 2, I could say u sub 1 plus u sub n, or excuse me, that would be u sub 17 equals 0. However, if I look back to this one uses u sub 1 and d, and so I'd actually rather use my sum formula that has it in terms of u sub 1 and d. So instead of this formula, I'm going to say n over 2 times 2 u sub 1 plus 17 minus 1 times d. It is important to make sure you know what's what, right? To make sure you don't forget that in this case 17 is in, right? In this case 6 is in, to make sure that you can plug them in right here. So when I simplify this, 17 halves times 2u sub 1 plus 16d equals 0. Right? So now I have another way that u sub 1 and d are related. I have a system of equations, right? So now I just have to solve my system. This can be done a lot of ways. This one over here is really nice because it's equal to 0. So you are welcome to divide both sides by 17 halves. I just get 2u sub 1 plus 16d, and 0 divided by 17 halves is just 0, right? So that's why that one was kind of nice. Honestly, they could still divide by 2 and say u sub 1 plus 8d here. Again, this is only helpful because I have a 0 on this side, but you know how to solve a system of equations, right? So it's nothing too crazy. I have this system, u sub 1 plus 8d equals 0. I have this system, u sub 1 plus 5d equals 21. I can solve by elimination pretty easily. U sub 1 minus u sub 1, 8d minus 5d, and 0 minus 21 gives me a common difference of negative 7. Should make sense since I know that it's negative because I know my sixth term is positive, but whenever I get to the adding all 17, I get 0. So I know I'm decreasing somewhere in there. I can plug it back into either of these two to solve for u sub 1. So let's go ahead and just plug it in over here. U sub 1 plus 8 times negative 7 equals 0. U sub 1 equals 56. I know my first term, I know my common difference. So the question ultimately says, find the first two terms. So of course my first term is 56, and my second term would be 7 less than that, or 49. So this is going to be my final answer.